Welcome back to AP Language for the spring 2021 semester. We have some different expectations this semester that I want to address just up front. And then if you have questions, thoughts, concerns, ways that we can go about doing some better revision, then please let me know. That was the point of sending out that survey. And so let's go ahead and talk about that survey first thing. So as of right now, I have 20 people who responded. And just to remind you, like I talked about, communication from teachers with students. Most of you feel really happy about that, it seems. The 7 responses that I had all kind of said, I don't have any more suggestions. We really like the communication. And then one that said, we need more time with virtual students, which I kind of expected. Thinking about your communications with each other, much more mixed here, with kind of some need for improvement. Some groups feeling really good about that, some not feeling so well. So we have some thoughts on that. Communication from student to teacher, again, a little more mixed. This is obviously very personalized. So I have a few more suggestions for that as well. And then I was a little concerned with reading. I'll get into that. And everybody says that they read, but the feeling that I got from Bardo doesn't support that. So I had a lot of people saying just like, well, things were good for me, even if it wasn't necessarily good for other people. And then I did get more discussions, more discussions, more discussions, which is, of course, something I want as well. And then anything else that we can do. No, I think the 4 responses, the 3 real responses that I got here were very positive. So I appreciate that things are going well in a lot of different ways. And let's talk about what went really well first semester. English 1500, which was first semester's course, is really about exploring writing, expanding our understanding of writing, lots of trial and error. And I saw you guys embrace that mentality, maybe not as intently as years past. I'm going to blame that on the pandemic. I don't think that has anything to do with you guys. I think it's hard to be as trusting in an environment where we're not seeing each other every day, seeing each other face to face, etc. And so I still feel like you guys are a little closed off, but I don't think that's any one or specific general fault. I think that's just kind of the culture that we're in right now. And I expect you to kind of keep growing in some of those ways as we move on through this course. Um, we also began to understand new depths of critical reading. So again, with the reading, I felt like we could have done a better job with Bardo. I'm going to look for some improvement through Gatsby. Of course, that's part of a normal process as we're getting used to thinking very critically about a book. And we were handicapped in a number of different ways. I've already thought about some different ways to do the critical reading for Gatsby. So again, I don't think that is necessarily anybody's fault. As long as you kind of dedicate yourself to do all the reading for the course, then I think you'll be fine. And, not for nothing, but I think we did lose a lot of people who maybe were not invested entirely in the course and maybe not doing all of that work. So I think we have less people this semester. We'll be a little tighter in our discussion. We definitely need to work on discussion strategies. And so I have some ideas for how to get that to happen. But the number one way is people showing up more and more in person. And that's really one of the things that we'll talk about. Areas for concern. So I would definitely say peer-to-peer communication, not for every group, but for enough groups was a problem. Maybe not having that clear, back channel of, everybody has everybody else's number inside of the group. Maybe not having someone who was willing to step up and tell everybody you're not doing what's necessary in some groups kind of happened. Not doing a good job of communicating with me as a whole group. That's something else that happened in some groups. So I think that peer-to-peer communication is something that we definitely want to enhance this time around. Taking a break, repicking our groups is going to be one way that we address that, and then kind of thinking about like, well, who do I work really well with, or who can help me in this course. Those are some things that I want us to think about as we're picking groups. Um, Student to teacher communication. So this was the area that I felt like we could kind of take that lesson that we maybe should have learned, or that I kind of warned you about at the beginning of the semester, and really put it into action this year. Just being aware that, um, man, these problems that we've had are not going to end, right? Just because it's 2021 doesn't mean that the problems that we've had all along are going to end. So there's really no end in sight for hybrid. No promises that we're gonna, ever get back to a regular school year this year. And so maybe knowing that helps you a little bit. Maybe knowing me as a teacher helps you a little bit. Wanting to put in a little bit more face time with me and wanting to get to know me a little bit better, so that you kind of understand, like, I am actually here to help and support you. I think most of you know that, or maybe you know that on a grander level, but know that on a more intimate level with me. Get to know me a little bit better if you haven't so far. And I will try to reach out to you in ways that maybe I hadn't thought to do before, because I'm used to just sitting next to people in class and talking to them, and we don't have that. So some things that I'm kind of thinking about: how do I talk to you a little differently to get you to talk to me? Definitely coming to me when you have problems, um, instead of waiting, right? That's the big one, especially this semester as we get into these big projects, these very time consuming projects. It's going to be easy for you to fall off the train, so to speak, as we move at a maybe slower speed than last semester, but at a consistent speed. Virtual students getting necessary instructional time. So I think you're going to see that the whole school has started to realize this. I'm definitely realizing this. And so I want to make it like very clear that there are new expectations and what those expectations are, so that we can do that with some better fidelity. And then discussions. I want you guys talking to each other more, and I need to see either evidence of that, or I need to be a part of the discussions. So just thinking about how we do discussions a little differently. We have kind of typically done this thing where you come to meets and you hear what I have to say, and then you don't have any questions, so you leave. So I think even preparing questions ahead of a meet, so that we have something to talk about when we get to the meet, that's something that's going to be important. And then not distancing the virtual people from the in-person people. I don't know how to do that balancing act, to be perfectly honest, but it seems foolish to me that we sometimes have rooms of 2 people, and then we have everybody online, and we can't all be talking together. That seems like the best way to use that time to me. So definitely thinking about some of those things. We're going to start with the big picture for the whole unit. I'm sorry, the whole semester. And then you'll kind of get a sense of where we're going. And then we're going to back off, do some reading with Gatsby, get in touch with some of those discussions. So we're going to be hitting discussions pretty early on this semester. So plans for addressing some of those concerns. A super clear attendance policy, that I will be taking both your in-person attendance and your virtual attendance. So when I expect you to be in class on a meet, then I expect you to be in class on a meet, and I'm going to take attendance. And if you're not there, then I'm going to count you absent. And if you have a problem with that, like I've heard some students are still double booked in classes, then I need to know so I can be accommodating. So that's an area where you need to let me know if something's gonna go wrong. We're gonna use short writing assignments also as part of our weekly participation, and the combination of being in class and doing those short writing assignments will be worth 10% of your overall grade. So I'm just gonna make that a weighted part of your grade. I have never made participation worth a weighted part of a grade for any class I've ever taught. This year is so totally different. I feel like that's the way to move forward. And for you guys, 10% makes a lot of sense to me, because a lot of you, I think, we're pretty capable of doing like all the work on your own, but you're still missing things. You're missing the richness of discussion, the next idea that comes out of discussion by not being in meets. So I'm gonna dangle some points in front of you to get you to show up to meets, and then have you come prepared to talk about something so that we definitely talk and don't just twiddle our thumbs for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. More accountability for the revision process. We have fewer papers this semester, and so I want to see what's happening in revision. Instead of relying on you guys to tell me that revision is happening, I want to see that happen in a real way. And then extending time. So again, I'll have a separate presentation where I go through, here's what the semester looks like. And I'm just going to be very, very realistic this year, and knowing that we're probably not going to get to a whole unit. It's a unit that I usually have to skip. And everyone wants me to know there's a meeting in 10 minutes. There's a unit that we usually skip. It's unfortunate that we will skip it. If we do have time, we'll get to it. But I would rather us cover the major bases of what we have to cover for SLU than do the extra kind of cool stuff. And there's always some extra kind of cool stuff that we can do if we don't have time to do that big one. There are smaller things that we've done in the past. So we're going to be a little nimble, especially post spring break, and looking at, well, how long does it take us to do this huge mauling research project that we have to do? And if it takes up too much of our time, it's just going to take up too much of our time. That's going to be how it is. That's the big course objective, is to get that that tackled. So those are my plans kind of moving forward. By all means, if you have some other concerns to raise to me, please let me know, and I will do some re-revision and kind of work on it from that point of view. All right, let's do this thing.